The transport ship docked at station with a loud hiss. The doors opened slowly, and 47 recruits walked out into the massive hangar. They came from 17 different worlds. Some were tall with hard skin like stone. Others had 4 arms or 6 eyes. A few floated instead of walking. They were the best warriors their planets had to offer. Among them stood a young woman named Park. She was the only human in the group. Was not tall. She was not covered in armor or scales. She had soft brown skin, black hair tied back in a simple ponytail, and dark eyes that watched everything around her. She wore the standard gray uniform of a new recruit, and she carried a small bag over her shoulder. Next to the massive aliens around her, she looked like a child. The other recruits noticed her immediately. A creature with blue crystalline skin and 4 eyes looked down at her and made a sound like breaking glass. It was laughter. His name was, and he came from a warrior race called the... His people had conquered 12 star systems before joining the Galactic Alliance. "Is this a joke?" said to another recruit. "They sent us a human. I thought this was supposed to be an elite program." The other recruit, a tall insect-like being named, clicked his mandibles in agreement. Humans are new to space travel. They have been among the stars for only 20 of their years. What could they possibly know about war? Heard them, she did not react. She simply kept walking with the others toward the main hall. Station was the home of the Galactic Defense Academy. It was a place where the best soldiers from all species came to train together. The academy had existed for over 1,000 years. Its graduates went on to lead fleets, protect planets, and win wars. Being accepted into the academy was the highest honor a warrior could receive. Had received her acceptance letter 6 months ago. The message had caused confusion on Earth. Humans had only made first contact with alien life 23 years earlier. They were still considered a primitive species by galactic standards. Most aliens saw humans as weak, short-lived creatures who had barely figured out how to leave their own planet. So when the Academy invited a human to join their program, many people thought it was a mistake. Others believed it was just a political gesture, a way to make humans feel included without actually expecting anything from them. Knew all of this, she did not care. The recruits entered a massive hall with high ceilings and walls made of some kind of white metal. At the far end stood a platform, and on that platform stood the commandant. His name was, and he was also. He was older than, and his crystalline body had deep cracks running through it like old scars. Each crack represented a battle survived, had more cracks than anyone had ever seen. "Welcome to the Academy," said. His voice was deep and cold. "You have been chosen because your worlds believe you are exceptional. I do not care what your worlds believe. Here, you are nothing. You will prove yourselves through blood and sweat and pain, or you will fail." He walked slowly along the platform, his 4 eyes scanning the recruits below. "Many of you will not complete this training. Some of you will quit, some of you will be removed, and some of you will die." He paused. "This is not a school, this is a forge. We will break you down and build you into something stronger if you survive." His eyes stopped on. "I see we have a human this year," he said. The hall became very quiet. "I will be honest with you, recruit. You were not my choice. The council insisted on including your species as a gesture of goodwill. I do not expect you to last more than 1 week." Looked up at him, she did not speak. She did not look away. She simply met his 4 eyes with her too. After a moment, moved on. But something in his expression changed slightly. It was a tiny crack of doubt, so small that no one else noticed. The recruits were assigned to their quarters, shared a room with 3 other beings. One was a small furry creature named who could run faster than any vehicle. Another was a massive green-skinned warrior named who had tusks and could lift 10 times his own weight. The third was a silent female with silver skin named Lyra who came from a race of assassins. None of them spoke to on the first night. Training began the next morning. The instructors were brutal. They pushed the recruits through physical exercises that tested strength, speed, and endurance. They taught combat techniques used by dozens of different species. They drilled tactics and strategy into the recruits' minds for hours at a time. Struggled, her body was weaker than most of the others. She could not run as fast as or lift as much as. When they practiced hand-to-hand combat, threw her across the room like she weighed nothing. But she always got back up. Days turned into weeks. Recruits began to drop out. Some simply gave up. Others were injured too badly to continue. One recruit from a water world died during a training accident. His body was sent home, and no one spoke of him again. Through it all remained. She was never the fastest or the strongest, but she was always watching, always learning. She studied how each species moved, where their weak points were, how they reacted under pressure. She took notes in a small book she kept hidden under her pillow. Her roommates began to notice. "You do not sleep much," Lyra said one night. It was the first time she had spoken to directly. "I sleep enough," replied. "You watch everything, you write things down. Why?" Closed her notebook. "Where I come from, we have a saying, know your enemy." Lyra tilted her silver head. "We are not your enemies. We are your fellow recruits." Smiled. It was a small smile, but there was something behind it that made Lyra feel strange. "I know," said. "That is not why I watch." She did not explain further. Lyra did not ask again. 3 weeks into training, Senior Instructor made an announcement. Tomorrow, there would be a special demonstration in the main armory. All recruits were required to attend. "You will see something incredible," promised. "You will see the future of galactic warfare." The recruits talked excitedly among themselves, even seemed curious. Only remained quiet. She had learned long ago that when someone promised to show you something incredible, it was best to wait and see for yourself. She had also learned that the galaxy was full of surprises. And sometimes, the biggest surprises came from the smallest packages. The main armory was the largest room in station. It stretched for hundreds of meters in every direction, filled with weapons and equipment from 1,000 different worlds. Plasma rifles hung on the walls next to ancient bladed weapons. Vehicles of war sat in neat rows, some designed for land, some for space, and some for environments that humans could not even imagine. The recruits gathered in the center of the room. They stood in neat lines, organized by height. This meant that stood near the front, surrounded by the shorter species. Behind her towered the massive forms of and the other large warriors. Senior Instructor stood on a raised platform at the front of the room. He was like Commandant, but younger. His crystalline body was smooth and clear, with only a few small cracks. He moved with the confidence of someone who had never truly been challenged. "Today," announced, "you will witness the greatest achievement in galactic military history." He pressed a button on his wrist, and the floor behind him began to open. A platform rose slowly from below, carrying something covered in a dark cloth. The recruits leaned forward with excitement, even felt her curiosity grow. Walked to the covered object and grabbed the cloth. For 600 years, the greatest minds of 4 elder civilizations worked together on a single project. They combined their knowledge of physics, materials, chemistry, and engineering. They tested thousands of designs. They failed countless times, but finally they succeeded. He pulled the cloth away. The recruits gasped. Standing on the platform was a suit of armor unlike anything had ever seen. It was tall, designed to fit a body, and it seemed to glow with inner light. The surface was made of countless tiny plates that shifted and moved like liquid metal. Blue energy pulsed through channels that ran across the chest and arms. The helmet had a smooth, featureless face that reflected the lights of the armory like a mirror. "This," said proudly, "is the shell. It is the most advanced protective armor in the known universe." He walked around the armor slowly, pointing out its features. "The outer layer is made of adaptive nanoplating. It can harden against impacts or become flexible for movement. It repairs itself when damaged. It adjusts to any environment automatically. He touched the chest plate and the blue energy glowed brighter. Inside, there are 3 separate shield generators. They create overlapping energy barriers that can stop plasma fire, kinetic projectiles, and even directed energy weapons. Working together, they provide protection that no single shield could match. The recruits murmured in amazement. 4 eyes were wide with wonder. Even Lyra, who never showed emotion, seemed impressed. Continued. The neural sync system connects directly to the wearer's brain. The armor responds to thoughts faster than muscle movement. You think about raising your arm and the armor has already moved. You sense danger behind you and the armor has already turned to face it. He stepped back and spread his arms wide. This armor can withstand plasma discharge at maximum military power. It can survive kinetic impacts up to 12,000 joules. It can keep its wearer alive in hard vacuum for extended periods. There is nothing in the galaxy that can match it. The recruits began to applaud. Some of the more emotional species cheered, stomped his feet in approval, making the floor shake. Smiled with satisfaction. This armor represents the peak of galactic achievement. It is the combined wisdom of civilizations that have existed for millions of years. When you graduate from this academy, some of you may have the honor of wearing it. He paused, letting his words sink in. And then, in the brief moment of silence, a sound cut through the air. It was a giggle. The sound was soft, almost hidden, but in the quiet of that moment everyone heard it. The applause died. The cheering stopped. Every head turned toward the source of the sound. Stood near the front, her hand pressed against her mouth. Her eyes were wide, not with fear but with surprise. The giggle had escaped before she could stop it. Smooth face hardened. He stepped down from the platform and walked toward her, the crowd parting to let him through. He stopped directly in front of and looked down at her with all 4 of his eyes. "You," he said. His voice was cold and sharp like breaking ice. "You find this amusing." Lowered her hand. Her face was calm now, though her cheeks had turned slightly red. "No, Instructor, I apologize for the disruption." "That is not an answer," leaned closer. "I just showed you the greatest technological achievement in galactic history. I explained 600 years of work by 4 civilizations, and you laughed." The other recruits stared at. Some looked confused. Others looked angry on his behalf. Was grinning, clearly hopping to see the human get punished. "Why did you laugh?" demanded. "Do you think this is a joke? Do you think you know better than the greatest scientists in the galaxy?" Took a slow breath. She met his eyes without looking away. "No, Instructor, I do not think I know better." "Then explain yourself." There was a long pause. Seemed to be thinking carefully about her words. The entire armory was silent, waiting. Finally she spoke. "The armor is very impressive, Instructor, truly. I was not laughing at the achievement." "Then what?" Hesitated. "It reminded me of something from home. The memory surprised me and I reacted without thinking. I am sorry." Straightened up. He was not satisfied with this answer. Could see it in his posture, in the way his crystalline body seemed to harden. "This is not over," he said. "After the demonstration, you will report to my office. You will explain exactly what you found so funny about the peak of galactic engineering." "Yes, Instructor." Turned and walked back to the platform. The demonstration continued, but the mood had changed. The other recruits kept glancing at with curiosity and suspicion. What could a human possibly know that would make her laugh at the most advanced armor in the universe? Stood quietly through the rest of the demonstration. Her face showed nothing. But inside her mind, memories were stirring. Memories of training fields in the mountains of Korea. Memories of her brother coming home from war. Memories of equipment that had been old and worn but had kept soldiers alive through things that would have killed anyone else. She had not meant to laugh, But when she saw the shell, with all its glowing lights and smooth surfaces and advanced technology, she had felt something she did not expect. She had felt recognition. And that recognition had caught her so off guard that the giggle had escaped before she could stop it. His office was small and cold. The walls were bare metal and the only furniture was a desk and 2 chairs. There were no decorations, no personal items, nothing that showed who was as a person. It was a room designed for one purpose, to make whoever sat in the smaller chair feel uncomfortable. Sat in that chair now, sat across from her, his 4 eyes fixed on her face. Commandant stood in the corner, watching silently. His presence made the situation much more serious. Now said, "You will explain." Nodded slowly. She had been thinking about this moment since the demonstration ended. She had considered lying, considered making up some simple excuse, but she knew that would only make things worse in the long run. "The armor reminded me of equipment from Earth," she said. His expression did not change. "Earth has nothing that compares to the shell." "I know how it looks," replied. "But when you describe the features, the adaptive plating, the shield systems, the neural connection, I recognize the ideas. We have something similar." Shifted in the corner. His cracked crystalline body caught the light as he moved. "Similar. Human technology is barely capable of basic space travel. You cannot possibly have anything that resembles our most advanced armor." Turned to face him. "With respect, Commandant, you may be right. I am not an engineer or a scientist. I cannot speak to the technical details. But I was a soldier for 12 years before I came here. I wore combat armor. I trained with it. I fought in it. And when I saw your armor today, I felt like I was looking at something I had seen before." The room was quiet for a moment, and exchanged a look that could not read. 12 years, said slowly. "You were a soldier for 12 years. "Yes." "In what capacity?" Paused before answering. "Special operations. The unit was called Special Warfare Command. We handled situations that regular soldiers could not." This was new information. Neither nor had looked closely at its background. They had assumed she was like most new species representatives, young, inexperienced, chosen more for political reasons than actual ability. "Why were you not identified as a veteran in your application?" asked. "I was," said, "page 7 of my file, section 4. His eyes narrowed. He had not read her file that carefully. None of them had. They had seen human and made their assumptions. Leaned forward. "You said the armor reminded you of equipment from Earth. What equipment?" Took a breath. "I would like to request permission to show you, rather than tell you." "Show us how." "There is a human embassy vessel in orbit. The ambassador is a friend of mine. If you allow me to contact him, I can have something delivered to the station. Something that might answer your questions better than my words can." Looked at. The commandant's cracked face was unreadable, but after a long moment he nodded. "Very well," said. "Make your request. But understand this, human. If you are wasting our time, there will be consequences." "I understand." Was given access to a communication terminal. She sent a message to the embassy vessel and spoke briefly with ambassador. He was surprised by her request but agreed without asking too many questions. He trusted. They had known each other for years. 3 hours later, a small cargo drone arrived at station. It carried a single container about the size of a large closet. The container was brought to the main armory, where a small group of senior instructors had gathered. Word had spread about the incident, and several recruits had found excuses to be nearby as well. Stood beside the container. She looked calm, but her heart was beating fast. She knew what was inside. She knew what it meant. She just did not know how the aliens would react. "Before I open this," she said, "I want to explain something about humans." Crossed his arms. "Go on." "We are a young species. You are right about that. We have only been in space for a short time. We do not have the scientific knowledge that older civilizations possess. We cannot build shield generators or neural sync systems. Our understanding of physics is basic compared to yours. She paused. But we have been fighting wars for a very long time, thousands of years. Long before we knew that other species existed, we were already killing each other. We fought with sticks and stones, then with metal and fire, then with guns and bombs and machines. She placed her hand on the container. Every war taught us something. Every death made us ask how we could have prevented it. Every wound made us think about better protection. We did not develop our technology in clean laboratories with unlimited funding. We developed it in mud and blood and desperation. She opened the container. Inside stood a suit of armor. It was smaller than the shell, designed for a human body. The surface was matte black, covered in segmented plates that overlapped like the scales of a fish. There were no glowing lights, no smooth curves, no elegant design. It looked rough, practical, almost ugly compared to the beautiful alien armor. Stared at it. This is your answer, this primitive shell. This is a K-7 tactical suit, said. It is standard equipment for Korean mechanized infantry. The design is about 40 years old. It was created by a team led by Dr. Sara. 40 years, laughed, a sound like shattering glass. You compare 40 years of human engineering to 600 years of combined galactic research. I am not comparing anything, said quietly. I am asking for a demonstration. The room went silent. Stepped forward. His old, cracked body moved slowly, but his eyes were sharp. What kind of demonstration? A test, said. Your armor against ours, plasma resistance, kinetic impact, environmental survival, whatever tests you normally use to evaluate protective equipment. Slaughter died. He looked at the human armor, then at. You cannot be serious, he said. I am completely serious. This is insulting. You want us to waste our time testing your primitive equipment against the greatest armor in the galaxy. Met his eyes. If it is so primitive, then the test will be quick. You will prove your superiority and I will apologize for wasting your time. But if you refuse, people will wonder why. They will wonder what you were afraid of. It was a challenge. Everyone in the room knew it. His crystalline face flushed with color, a sign of anger among his species. Raised one cracked hand. Enough, he looked at for a long moment. Very well, human, we will conduct your test. And when your primitive armor fails, you will explain to everyone exactly why you wasted our time. Bowed her head slightly. Thank you, Commandant. But inside, she was not worried about failure. She was worried about what would happen when they learned the truth. The combat simulation arena was built to test warriors against any threat the galaxy could imagine. Its walls could project holographic enemies. Its floor could change shape and texture. Its environmental systems could create any condition from burning deserts to frozen wasteland to the empty void of space. Today, it would be used for something different. Word had spread through the entire station. By the time the test began, nearly every recruit and instructor had found a way to watch. They filled the observation galleries above the arena, pressing against the transparent barriers to see what would happen below. Two figures stood in the center of the arena. On the left was, wearing the shell. The armor gleamed under the lights, its blue energy channels pulsing with power. It made him look like a god of war from ancient legends. On the right stood a smaller figure in the black K-7 tactical suit. Inside was not, but another human who had volunteered for the test. Her name was. She worked as a diplomatic observer at the human embassy, but before that, she had served 5 years in the Korean Marine Corps. She knew the K-7 better than anyone on the station except. His voice came through the arena speakers. 3 tests will be conducted: plasma resistance, kinetic impact, environmental survival, the same tests we use to evaluate all combat armor. Both participants have agreed to accept the results. in the observation gallery stood among the other recruits, was beside her, his 4 eyes fixed on the arena below. "Your friend is going to be embarrassed," he said. "That armor looks like something we would use for training children." Did not respond, she just watched. Continued. Test 1, Plasma Resistance. Both subjects will be exposed to standard military plasma discharge at increasing power levels. Weapon systems emerged from the arena walls. 2 plasma cannons pointed at the armored figures. There was a moment of tension, then the cannons fired. Twin streams of superheated plasma struck both suits at the same time. The shell's shields activated instantly, surrounding in a bubble of blue light. The plasma splashed against the shields like water against glass. The K-7 had no shields. The plasma hit the armor directly. Several observers gasped, but instead of melting or burning, the black plates seemed to absorb the energy. Steam rose from the surface as hidden channels pulled the heat away from its body and dispersed it across the entire suit. The plates glowed red for a moment, then cooled back to black. His voice came through the communication system. "Minor temperature increase, within acceptable limits." The observers murmured. His confident smile faded slightly. The plasma cannons increased power. They fired again, then again. Each time the shields flickered and held. Each time the K-7 simply absorbed the heat and redirected it. "Plasma test complete," announced. Both suits passed, proceeding to test 2, Kinetic Impact. New weapons emerged. These were different from the plasma cannons. They were designed to hit targets with pure physical force, measured in joules. A joule was a unit of energy. The higher the number, the harder the hit. "Beginning at 5,000 joules," said. 2 projectiles launched simultaneously. They struck both suits with tremendous force, barely moved inside His shields absorbed most of the impact, stumbled slightly in the K-7 but quickly recovered. Increasing to 8,000 joules. Another impact, both suits held. Increasing to 12,000 joules. This was the limit that had mentioned during the demonstration, the maximum that the shell was designed to handle. The projectiles hit hard enough to shake the arena floor. The shields flickered dangerously. For a moment they seemed about to fail, but they held and remained standing. The K-7 took the same impact. The black plates cracked in several places, but as the observers watched, the cracks sealed themselves. Some kind of internal repair system was working, filling the damage with new material. His voice was calm, impact absorbed, suit integrity stable. The observation gallery was completely silent now. Hesitated, then he spoke again, increasing to 15,000 joules. His voice came through the system. "Commandant, the is rated for 12,000 maximum. Going higher risks shield failure." "The human suit is still functioning," replied. "We continue." The projectiles fired. 15,000 joules of force slammed into both armored figures. The shields collapsed. They flickered once, twice, and then disappeared completely. Without the shields, the armor itself took the remaining force, was knocked backward several steps. Warning lights flashed across his suit. The K-7 cracked again, more severely this time. The plates shattered in multiple places, revealing a layer of dense material underneath. But even as the observers watched, the suit began repairing itself. New plates formed from some kind of stored material inside the armor. Was still standing. "Significant impact," she reported. "Damage repairing, give me 30 seconds." No one spoke for those 30 seconds. They watched as the K-7 slowly rebuilt itself, the black plates reforming like a wound healing in fast motion. "Suit integrity restored," said. His voice was strange when he spoke again, increasing to 20,000 joules. "Step back. Commandant, my shields are depleted. I cannot survive another impact at that level." "Then exit the arena," said. "The test continues for the human suit." Hesitated. His crystalline face showed confusion and something else, something like the beginning of fear. Then he turned and walked out of the arena. Remained alone. The projectile fired at 20,000 joules. The K7 cracked, repaired, and held. 25,000 joules, the same result. 30,000 joules. This time the impact knocked off her feet. She flew backward and hit the arena wall hard. The suit cracked in dozens of places. Pieces of the outer layer fell away. In the observation gallery, leaned forward. Her hands gripped the railing. For a long moment did not move. Then slowly she stood up. The suit was damaged, but the inner layer had held. As the observers watched, the repair systems activated again. "That one hurt," said. Her voice was tight but controlled. "But I am still here." The observation gallery erupted in whispers and shocked sounds. Had stopped smiling entirely. He was staring at the arena with all four eyes wide open. Called for the final test. Environmental survival. Both subjects will be exposed to hard vacuum. Returned to the arena in a fresh suit. The atmosphere began to drain from the enclosed space. Temperature dropped. Pressure fell to zero. Both suits sealed automatically. Both figures stood in the emptiness of artificial space. Minutes passed. 4 minutes. 5 minutes. At the 4-minute mark, warning lights began to flash on the seals were degrading, small leaks were forming. At 6 minutes, his voice came through the communication system. "Seal failure imminent. I need to exit." He was pulled from the arena. The test continued for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 19 minutes. Finally ended the test. The atmosphere was restored. Removed her helmet and took a deep breath of fresh air. She looked up at the observation gallery and found in the crowd. The two humans shared a small smile. Below, standing at the edge of the arena, had removed his helmet. His crystalline face was pale. His four eyes were fixed on the K7 suit. "How?" he whispered. The word was barely audible, but everyone heard it. No one had an answer, not yet. The arena was silent as walked onto the floor. Every eye in the observation gallery followed her. The recruits, the instructors, even Commandant, all waited to hear what she would say. She stopped beside the damaged K7 suit. Up close, the armor looked even rougher than before. The repair systems had fixed most of the damage, but the surface was covered in lines and marks where plates had cracked and reformed. It looked like the skin of an animal that had survived many battles. Stood a few meters away. He had not moved since whispering his question. His four eyes were still fixed on the human armor, as if staring at it long enough would reveal its secrets. "You asked how," said. Her voice was calm and carried easily in the quiet arena. "I will try to explain." She walked slowly around the K7 suit, running her hand along its surface. This armor was not built by scientists in a laboratory. It was built by soldiers who had watched their friends die. Every feature, every design choice, every material used exists because someone once died without it. She stopped and faced the observation gallery. Hundreds of alien faces looked down at her. The self-repairing plates were added after a battle in Southeast Asia. A soldier named Sergeant was hit by an explosion. His armor cracked, and he died from the vacuum seal failure before medical help could arrive. He survived the explosion itself. He died because his armor could not repair itself fast enough. She continued walking. The thermal dispersion system was added after soldiers burned to death inside their suits during a desert operation. The multi-layered kinetic absorption was added after a training accident killed 3 recruits. The extended vacuum sealing was added after a space station breach left soldiers floating in the void for 20 minutes while rescue teams tried to reach them. Stopped and looked directly at. "You asked me why I laughed when I saw the shell. I did not laugh because I thought your armor was bad. I laughed because I recognized it." His face hardened. "Recognized it? You have nothing that compares to our technology." "You are right. We do not have your shield generators. We do not have your neural sync systems. We do not have 600 years of combined scientific research." She paused. "But we have 10,000 years of trying not to die." She gestured to the K7. "This design, the layered plates, the self-repair, the adaptive systems, these ideas are not new to us. They are the result of countless generations of human beings finding ways to survive on a planet that tried to kill us every day." She began to explain. She told them about Earth, about the predators and diseases and natural disasters that had shaped human evolution. She told them about the wars, the endless wars that had forced humans to constantly improve their weapons and armor. She told them about the ancient warriors who had worn layered metal plates that could absorb sword strikes. She told them about modern vehicles designed to survive explosions that would destroy anything else. "Your civilizations developed in relative peace," said. "You had millions of years to build your knowledge slowly, carefully, elegantly. We did not have that luxury. Our history is written in blood. Our technology was forged in desperation. We did not have time for elegance. We only had time for survival." She looked at the shell, still standing where had left it. "Your armor is beautiful. It is the product of scientific genius. But it was built by people who wanted to create something perfect. The K7 was built by people who had already buried their friends, who had already felt what it was like to lose someone because their equipment was not good enough." The arena was completely silent. Even the whispers in the observation gallery had stopped. Stepped forward. His old, cracked body moved slowly down to the arena floor. He walked until he stood directly in front of. "And your reaction earlier," he said. "The giggle, you said the armor reminded you of something." Nodded. "When I was 17, I joined the military academy in Korea. On my first day, they gave us training armor. It was old, worn. Some of the recruits laughed at it and asked why we could not have something newer, something better." She smiled slightly. "The instructor told us that the armor was 15 years old. He said it was considered outdated because newer models had been developed. But he also said that armor had saved thousands of lives during its service. Every scratch, every dent, every repair represented a soldier who had survived because of it." She looked at the shell. "When I saw your armor today with its beautiful design and glowing shields, I thought of that old training suit. Your armor is impressive, Commandant, but it reminded me of what we used when I was young. The concepts are similar. The approach is similar. You have just wrapped it in nicer technology." Was quiet for a long moment. His cracked crystalline face showed no expression, but his eyes were deep in thought. Finally he spoke. "How old is your species' experience with warfare?" "Our first recorded wars were over 5,000 years ago, but we were fighting long before that. Long before we learned to write, we learned to fight." 5,000 years, repeated the word slowly. "We have been a spacefaring civilization for over 2 million years. In that time, we have fought perhaps 300 wars." Nodded. "In the last century alone, humans have fought over 200 armed conflicts." The number hit the room like a physical force. Even, who had been silent since his question, looked up with shock. 200 said, "In 100 years." "Yes." "And your armor design?" The K7 was considered advanced 40 years ago. It has been upgraded many times since then, but the basic design is old by our standards. The version I trained with when I was 17 was already being phased out for newer models. The suit wore today is not even our best. It is just what the embassy had available." Turned to look at the observation gallery. Hundreds of recruits and instructors stared back at him. Then he did something that no one expected. He turned back to and lowered his head. It was a gesture of respect among a gesture that commandants did not give to recruits. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I dismissed your species as primitive. I was wrong." Stepped forward. His face was no longer angry or proud. He looked like someone who had just discovered that everything he believed was incomplete. Slowly, carefully, he bowed as well. "It seems," said quietly, "that there is much we can learn from humans." Returned the bow. "There is much we can learn from each other, Instructor." In the observation gallery was staring at with completely different eyes. The other recruits were whispering among themselves. Lyra, the silver-skinned assassin, allowed herself a small smile. Within a week, the Galactic Defense Academy had sent a formal request to Earth. They asked for more human instructors. They asked for access to human military archives. They asked for partnerships between human engineers and galactic scientists. Within 5 years, the training methods developed from this partnership had spread across the galaxy. They called it the Park Doctrine, named after Dr. Sora, the engineer who had designed the original K-7. Humanity had arrived among the stars not as conquerors or diplomats. They had arrived as survivors, teaching the galaxy what it truly meant to endure. And Park, the small human woman who had giggled at the galaxy's greatest armor, became one of the most respected instructors the Academy had ever known. But she never forgot where she came from, and she never stopped watching, learning, and preparing for whatever came next. Because that was what humans did. They survived, but was already walking toward the arena floor. It was time to explain. Now she would have to explain, and she was not sure the galaxy was ready to hear what she had to say.